Hello everyone, and welcome back to me! How are we all doing today, guys? Right, this is my second iteration of my, going off the microphone there, my second iteration of my Dracotail Fiendsmith deck. Now, I did take this deck to the Liverpool Open. Didn't do very well. Did all right in a few rounds. Didn't do spectacularly well. And then I took it to the Chesterfield Regional, where I did real bad. And I've changed the deck a lot since then. I unfortunately don't have the time to go to another regional in this regional season, at least not one that's near me, which is a real shame. So I can't really go to another regional at any point in the near future. Which is a shame because we have Blazing Dominion coming out soon, so I'm going to miss this whole season. I've only been able to go to two regionals this season. Would love to do more, but around my day job it's just difficult, unfortunately. But yeah, so I've made some different changes to the deck, and it feels quite a bit better than it did before. I've watched Jordan Gallagher's video on his Dracotail theory, obviously the absolute goat when it comes to Dracotail, so he knows what he's talking about. And I listened to some of the things of his thought process and whatnot. His was more focused on the branded side of things, but I did take certain lessons from his list and take it into my own list, and it has made it a bit better. So I'm going to take it over there. Woo! One moment, I'll pull the microphone over and scoot my boot over. There we go. So this is the newest iteration of the list. I'm going to start off with the monsters as per usual. That makes more sense. We'll go with it's 3 Femina, because of course it is. It'd be weird if it wasn't. 3 Lucius. The Dracotail names, nothing exciting there. 1 Malulu. We have 2 Pan, 2 Urgula, and 1 Frixel. I have upped the count on these, as you might have been able to tell if you saw the last list. I was just doing 1 each of the big dragons in the last list, and then also that was it. And the reason behind that was because I was playing the deck a lot more similarly to the way that you play Magistus branded Dracotail, where you have all of those cards that will grab you the Dracotail cards from the deck, and therefore you don't necessarily need to hard draw them quite as much. The issue I had with this, and because it will work, because I've demonstrated before, the Fiendsmith cards do bridge into Dracotail. However, in my mind, I was playing, okay, 3 Engraver and 3 Tracts. Wonderful. How consistent is that? That's 6 cards that all get you to... It's not, though. Because if you draw 1 of each, one of those is not going to do the job. Because if they stop the Tract, the Engraver's doing nothing in your hand. Realistically, that is 6 cards that are all doing the exact same thing, but are also more or less the same name, nearly. That's why it was an issue. That's why it didn't work. So yes, you'll draw those cards more often, but the same amount of hand interactions, 1 Ash Blossom anywhere stops you on that combo. So obviously you want more ways to fuse, more names in hand. You want to play it more as Dracotail was supposed to be played, like a fishbowl deck. And that's kind of part of the lesson I took from other people's lists, is that you want more ways to fuse what you have in hand that's more than just Femina, basically. So that's the thought process on that. Now only playing 2 Engraver, 1 Lacrima, 1 Lurry. Cut down very heavily on this engine. I'm very minimal on this. I've done what I believe to be the bare minimum you can do and still call it a Fiendsmith deck and whatnot. And again, all these cards by themselves do still, or paired with any spare monster, do still get you to your full Dracotail combo. So there's still that aspect of the deck. The extra deck of this hasn't changed. It's just the fact that I'm now relying more heavily on, I'll draw this, or I'll draw heavy Dracotail engine, and drawing heavy Dracotail engine does still get you to your Fiendsmith combo as well. 1 Crowley is part of the bridge. Now, the return of King of the Swamp. 3 of these. The reason I'm playing 3 of these is purely for poly. I have used this once. Have I used this once? No, I haven't. I've not used this yet for the Fiendsmith line. I did use Polymerization to get Lacrima, though. That was fun. But I haven't used this elsewise, but you can use this for Invert Magistus Omega. I haven't yet. It's a niche case, but mainly this is just to get to Polarization, because I want to be able to fuse with what I have in hand without committing to a normal summon. That's the thought process there. And also, Poly is kind of hard to stop. Unless you have specifically Impulse, I don't think you can hand trap for Poly, so it feels pretty good. Obviously, in a grind game, it falls off because once you've used 1, that's it. I have considered using 2 and 2, 2 of this and 2 Poly. That might be the play going forward, but for now, this feels alright. Onto the hand interactions, we have 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Droll, and 3 Fua. I've gone very, very minimal on the non-engine now. I was running this deck, as I say before, with 15 non-engine, but I'll be honest, I'm still very hand interaction and non-engine brained currently. Hand interactions just don't feel like they do a lot at the moment. You play the ones like the Mulch Armies, like Droll. You play the ones like Nibiru, maybe, that do stuff. There are a few of them that feel very strong. Most of them don't feel very strong at the moment. I played a deck that had 3 Veiler and 3 Impermanent for a bit. They felt like they were just being played through like they were being walked through like they were nothing. So I just feel like hand interactions in this current format don't feel strong. I'd rather have heavy engine and also some breakers to be able to play through that. That's my thought process currently. There aren't that many end fields in the current format that are like completely unbreakable. It all feels very, I'll play through this. You know, everyone's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment, which I think is good. I do wish I could play some more non-engine because I do like having non-engine, but it's also just not doing a lot at the moment. So that's my thought process there. Onto the spells, we have 1 Kitsu, of course, 3 Rahu, of course, nothing exciting there. 1 Tract, I do side another copy, also side some more Fiendsmith stuff. For when I'm going first, I just want to be able to play. 1 is enough though when you're just playing the sort of standard version of the deck. 1 Poly, again just for the King of the Swamp stuff, and 3 Droplet. Droplet's insane. I don't think I was maining it last time. Don't know why. What a crazy card. And again, it works very nicely with Poly. If they're trying to negate the Poly, if they're trying to flame it or whatever in the mirror match, okay, cool, Droplet. As you do with any spell in that mirror match. It's very, very good. And then we have the traps. Very standard here. Nothing exciting. It is 1 Horn, 1 Flame, and 1 Sting. That's it. Nothing exciting going on there. This is all very predictable stuff. We'll move on to the extra deck. Now, this has not changed since last time, but I'll just go over it again quickly and explain what each of these things does. 1 Requiem, Fiendsmith. 1 Sequence, Fiendsmith. 1 Artemis and 1 Acacia Magician. These are part of your bridge that get you from your Fiendsmith cards into your Dracotail cards. 1 Exciton Knight, that's your bridge going the other way, obviously. Wave Hiking Caesar. This is the only sort of end field piece that I'll play for Fiendsmith because I simply do not have the room in this deck to play anything else. I would have to cut like a Showerless or something like that. And I don't want to cut Showerless because Showerless is good. So if I were to cut Showerless, I could play like Desiree, for example. I don't know if that's really... I don't know, maybe that's worth it. I don't know. I feel like the Dracotail stuff is what's most powerful here, and the Fiendsmith stuff is like a nice backup. But also, the main focus of this deck is really just get your Dracotail traps on the field, get 5 minute in hand, and get Wave Hiking Caesar on the field. If you can do that, you are winning most games you're playing into, because you need to, like, very specifically, either Infinite Impermanence, which I will say, I don't see that in a lot of decks at the moment. That might just be me, but I feel like there's not many people actually play that at the moment. You need Imperm, or you need like 2 breakers. You need 2 common breakers. You need to have Falling the Virtuous and a Forbidden Droplet. Because if you just Droplet, I will just flame it. If you just TFA TV, I will just flame it. You need to TFA TV targeting this and then Droplet. You need very specifically different cards to be able to make it work. So yeah, it feels very strong at the moment. Obviously, Caesar's a great card. A lot of people are talking that it should be forbidden. I personally don't think that, because it really is just the Fiendsmith stuff and DDD that makes it. So, and there are, like, Fiendsmith is not, it's not like Fiendsmith is running rampant on the meta currently. It's just in a few different decks here and there. It's a great card, don't get me wrong, but everyone's playing TFA TV. Everyone's playing Forbidden Droplet. People are playing out to Wave Hiking Caesar. It doesn't actually resolve its effects all the time anymore. So I kind of don't mind it. Also, depending on what other field your opponent ends on, you can sometimes feel poly it away. I don't mind it personally. It is annoying when you don't draw the out, obviously, and sometimes that does happen, but if you didn't draw the out, you probably weren't going to win that game anyway, is my thought process, that you need some kind of breakers in this sort of meta. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't mind it at the moment. I can see why people don't like it, but yeah. Anyway, 1 Caesar. 1 Magistus Zeroa, Zeroa the Magistus Conflagrant Calamity. This is part of the bridge as well. 1 Lacrima. This is just Fiendsmith stuff and also bridges. 1 Chorozo. This is part of the bridge going both ways. This card is insane. I can genuinely see this card getting forbidden at some point purely based on what this card is. rather than what it does. The effect is fine. It's not great. It's kind of a standard Magister's effect in that it just does a kind of a weird thing. It's battle protection, sort of. It's a fine effect. It's a like a dancer out if your opponent doesn't play around it. Yeah, it's a fine card. What it is a free body, a free level 4 tuner on the field almost whenever you want if you have the right materials on your... not just in the monster zone, on your field. This I can see getting limited or forbidden at some point, based purely on the fact that it's a free body. 1 Omega... because of course, part of the bridge. 1 Secretarian Dragon is part of the bridge going into from Dracotail into Fiendsmith, but also just an incredible card either way. So it's just one of the main things. 1 Showless. I am a Showless Truther. I think this is a fantastic card. It's amazing for going second. I would say a lot better than Gulamel. If you need that just last bit of a push to break apart your opponent's field to non-destruction, get rid of something. This is amazing. I think Showless is a fantastic card. 1 Gulamel. And 2 Arthalion. That's it for the main and the extra. Onto the side deck now. Center it. There we go. 3 Gamma-Seal. I'll play 3 Gamma-Seal still because it feels very good into Lunalight. With this deck specifically, because of Arthalion, you can just bounce it back. It's amazing. It's great in Lunalight, and it's just decent into other... There are sometimes other decks where you're like, you know what? I need to out that. It's going to be tricky to do so. Gamma-Seal, it's great, fantastic card. I love it in this deck. Again, I love it in this deck specifically because you just bounce it back to your hand and use it again. It's an amazing card in this deck. We can go 3 Meowls. Again, I don't think I'm ready to take Meowls out of the deck. I might at some point. I know it was one of the Silver Bullet cards against Malice. It's also, again, very good into Moonlight. It's solid into Yummy. It has its placements in the format still. I think Meowls is good. It's not as good or as widely used as the other two, but I still like it. I like Meowls a lot. Speaking of 3 Perillia, of course, much more generic use, and it's good against a lot of different stuff. I'm going to get 3 Nibiru. I side this in going first most games, because it's just great for going first in this deck. Great for going second into some decks, obviously, but a lot of decks will just be able to play around it and whatnot. And then just 3 more cards. I have 1 Engraver, 1 Called by the Grave, and 1 Tract. These are just here for going first. You side out your Maul Charmies for these, whatever the case is. These are just for your going first. I'm not sure what to side out. I'm not sure what to side in, rather. These are definitely going to be replacing the Charmies, and then maybe these replace like Droplet or something like that. And yeah, that is the list. That is the list, everyone. I also think that this list depends what the next Forbidden Limited list says, right? A lot of people are talking about that at the moment. The new FNL list is kind of, people are saying sort of due, and I'd agree with that. I think it's sort of due at the moment. We're probably going to get one any day now. I don't know that for sure. I cannot confirm or deny any of that because I don't know. It's been a while since we had the last list, and it feels like we kind of do one before Blazing Dominion comes out, you know? I think there are a couple of ways in which they can hit Dracotail. I think the most popular thing that people are considering is to put Flame on the Forbidden list. I think that's fine. Wouldn't be perfect. Yeah, that would suck a little bit. I'm not going to lie. That would be a bit painful. I would not like to see Flame on the Forbidden list. That would not fill me with joy. I could deal with it. I think if that were to happen, I would just replace this with Fiendsmith in Paradise and just put that on the list instead. And then play like the Lacrima stuff instead. Not Lacrima. I mean, yes, Lacrima. Desiree, that's what I'm on about. I think I can make that work. Wouldn't change this list too much. What I'm concerned about is that they might limit Rahu. I think if Rahu gets limited, the deck is just done. I think a limit to Rahu does just finish off the deck, personally. And I also think the same for a limit to Lucius. There are so many things in this deck which, if you... like, I think what we have currently, apart from if you want to get rid of one of the traps, which is probably going to be Flame realistically, I think that's fine. I think that's about the last kind of hit you could do to this deck to make it... I guess you could hit 5 mana if you really wanted to put that to 1, but 5 mana is really not the problem card. I think Dracotail as a pure deck has never been an issue. What the issue is currently is the fact that it's put with Branded. My hot take, right, I think that Branded Fusion should be forbidden. Because Branded as a deck does not need it anymore. The Synchro build is really good. It hand loops. It does a lot of cool stuff. The Synchro build of Branded is absolutely fantastic. You simply don't need to play Branded Fusion in Branded anymore, which I know is insane, But it's just the truth. You don't need that card anymore. And given the fact that you don't need that card, I think taking it out of other decks that just like splash branded, like sometimes in Lunelight, for example, because you play that card and it's combo, I think taking it out of other decks is going to be the main thing. So I personally would like to see Branded Fusion become forbidden, or at the very least limited, to cut that. No, I think it needs to be forbidden. I think it does have to be forbidden to get rid of branded Dracotail as a deck. If you get rid of that, you can still play the Fall of the White Dragon stuff. You can still play that little package, and that can still get you a Cartesia on the field without using a normal summon. So it's still good, and it still gets you Fall of the Virtuous. But if you get rid of Branded Fusion, that might no longer be the, I'd say, optimal way to play the deck, maybe. And then we have something like, for example, oh, my brain's just turned off. What was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say now. I was going to say, oh yeah, on the topic of a different deck, something like Yummy. I think myself and a lot of people thought that Yummy was kind of done for. Turns out, no! I would reckon the best way to hit Yummy currently would actually be to put Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones onto the Forbidden list. Because let's be real, Sky Striker doesn't really need that card. Let's be so real right now. It's a one-of in that deck that if you're playing in the first place, half the time you're going to banish off of Pot of Desires. You simply don't need that card in Sky Striker. It is not incredible. It's good. It's nice to have. You don't need it. But what that card is at the moment is purely a Yummy bridge. That's all it's used for. Because you obviously we don't have it in the EU yet because we don't have the new decks. What's the word for it? Modern? What? Competitive modern? No. You know what I mean, the decks. We don't have Azalea yet, so we can't use it yet. But that's all it's kind of used for, is to splash Yummy. Yummy's the new Fiendsmith. You just splash it into stuff. 2 generic monsters makes your full Yummy combo. It is the new Fiendsmith. So, I think forbid Hornet Drones. If you're going to touch Dracotail, I think maybe forbid Flame. I don't think touch the rest of it. I think, if anything, if you want to hit the branded stuff, you can bring back Malulu to 3. You know, that's a hot take, mayhaps, but I do just miss playing this deck pure. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's just a bit. I'm rambling a bit now. Pleasure as always. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the Flippity Flop. Bye-bye!